You're listening to the Chiropractic Connection, a podcast by chiropractors for chiropractors. In this episode, we're exploring the impact of interior design on chiropractic care. Today, we are joined by Carolyn Boldt, VP Director of Design at CrossFields Design. Together, we'll discuss how thoughtful design choices, from colors to layout, can enhance patient comfort and well-being in your practice. Whether you're revamping your clinic or curious about the role of design in healthcare, this episode offers practical insights to create healing spaces. So sit back, relax, and let's get connected.
Have you ever wondered what makes chiropractic chiropractic? We don't always have the answers, but it never hurts to imagine.
Hey GCA, Dr. Eric Plasker here. Welcome to this edition of Philosophy in Action. I'm so glad we're talking about environment this month because I'll tell you, Carolyn Boldt, CrossFields, they came and did our office environment 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago when we opened our new office. And I always knew environment was important. We've always been, always had it as holistic care, wellness care, chiropractic care as a part of a lifestyle, not just crisis care. Sure, we love crisis care, but in our continuum, we go from crisis care through this critical transition to lifestyle care. And what we've learned is that big visions like living a long, healthy, active life requires an environment that's different than just a pain-based environment. So we had Carolyn come. She designed our office. It was fantastic. And I'm going to tell you the results. It's a true story. It's fantastic. So Carolyn, she set it up. It's an open environment. The colors are nice. It's high ceilings, a beautiful front desk, nice flow, high capacity, very efficiently put together. Well, we had a woman about 1.5 years into being open. We had a woman walk in the front door and she looked around the office, and everybody that would come in would compliment us on our environment. And we have a very high transition rate from crisis care to lifestyle care. Well, this woman came in and she looked around the office. She had a little chat with us. She saw the 100-year lifestyle. She loved the branding. She loved that we were family and performance oriented, that we were crisis care to lifestyle care, that we did all of that we help people live longer, healthier, active lives. And she looked around, she saw the books, she just saw the whole environment, took it in, and she said, "Thank you very much. I just wanted to check out your place." And she walked out. About 30 seconds later, she turned around and came back in and she told us, today I woke up and I said, I am going to go up Johnson Ferry Road, and I'm going to go from office to office to office to office until I find the right chiropractor for me. Now, what was really cool about it was when she came in, she said, this is the right office for me. We built a good relationship with her. She's been committed now. She's 4 years under care. Her whole family is under care. She pays for her care out of pocket. There's no insurance reimbursement. There's no involvement. We use Chiro Health USA, so she gets that discounted Chiro Health USA rate, which is a very reasonable rate. Great for her, great for us. It's a very good exchange. And they come in on a regular basis with a level of consistency. Every single year, they never miss. They never miss. And it's exciting. We don't have to chase them. They want it for themselves. And because of the environment, she went looking for what she found. And she has referred at least 10 families to do the same thing that are doing the same exact thing. And 3 of them she is paying for. And so much of it is because of the environment, the personality of the office, not the people, of the practice, because the environment creates the personality of that practice. So environment is really, really important, especially when you look at all the Facebook ads and all the Instagram ads and all the $21 this, $21 that, cheapy, give it away, get people in, and then sucker punch them with a really, really big fee. That's a surprise fee that, knocks a lot of people over the head. They come in, they get a few visits, and then they leave. Well, that's not what your environment, in my opinion, in 2024, that is not the ideal environment for a chiropractic office, because we lose so many people who never make that critical transition, as we call it in the 100-year lifestyle. We lose so many people that don't make that critical transition from crisis care to lifestyle care. So we want you to do that. We want the entire state of Georgia under chiropractic care, utilizing chiropractic care, not just for crisis care, of course for crisis care, but for lifestyle care, for performance-based care, because that's what makes the biggest difference over the long haul. What's interesting for us is when people are consistently coming in. We had a woman recently, she came in and she was seeing another chiropractor. She was looking for a change because she would go in. She said, you know what, I'm coming in I go get adjusted every 3 weeks, Dr. Plasker, because every time I go in, I really feel like I need it. So I don't know if it's helping. I don't know if I'm deteriorating. And there's been no change of recommendations. And I looked at her and she liked the environment. She loved the 100-year lifestyle. She loved the branding, loved the message. She loved the long-term vision. It was all over our environment. And she says to me, she says, so what do you think? And I said, well, let me ask you this. What if you never felt like you needed it? I asked her, I said, so if you feel it on every 3 weeks, what if you went and got checked every 2 weeks? Or what if you got checked every 10 days? What if you got ahead of it so you never felt like you needed it? And she's like, brilliant, let's try it. And she did. And all she did was increase the frequency of her care, her lifestyle care. So she never felt like she needed it. And now she's happy as can be. The environment has so much to do with your walls, your signage, your branding, your education. All of that has everything to do with your results, long-term results. So listen, if you need an office design, if you want to shake things up, Carolyn does a great job. CrossFields does a great job. We highly recommend them. And if you haven't yet, check out the 100-Year Lifestyle Certification Seminar. We're proud to be a part of GCA. They're doing a lot of great things, making a lot of great changes, and doing a lot for chiropractic. So thanks for listening, everybody. Philosophy in Action, 100-Year Lifestyle. See you soon.
Who doesn't like a moment to shine in the spotlight? GCA is always ready to give our members a shout out.
Today, we're excited to feature Dr. Alyssa Jordan-Smith, a first-generation American from Trinidad and Tobago and a Brooklyn native. Dr. Smith is the founder and CEO of the newly opened Lux Noir Health. Her passion for chiropractic was ignited by her own experience of relief from debilitating headaches. With a Bachelor of Science in Biology and pre-med from Virginia State University, Dr. Smith dedicated a year to a nonprofit before earning her Doctor of Chiropractic degree at Life University College of Chiropractic. When she's not tending to her practice, Dr. Smith participates in her community alongside the American Black Chiropractic Association, the League of Chiropractic Women, and of course, the Georgia Chiropractic Association. Recently featured in the Georgia Chiropractor magazine, Dr. Smith said, "Through TikTok and Instagram, I've cultivated a sense of trust and relatability among my followers. This creates a safe space where individuals feel understood and empowered to explore chiropractic." Dr. Smith is a testament to sharing chiropractic with the world through the use of her platform on TikTok and Instagram. We're super excited for Dr. Jordan's new chapter in her journey, and we thank her for being a dedicated member of the GCA and the chiropractic community.
Explore the vital link between nutrition, wellness, and chiropractic health. Uncover the valuable insights and practical tips for enhancing your patient's overall well-being.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Patience Canty. Thank you for joining us on the Georgia Chiropractic Association podcast. For July's wellness segment, we will be discussing how physical environment impacts our bodies and minds. So first, let's talk lighting. It's really important to have a source of natural light, either in our practices or at home in our personal spaces, because this can help to regulate our circadian rhythms. And if we don't have access to natural light, having some sort of artificial light that can mimic the beneficial effects of natural light works as well. When we have sources of natural light in our offices, we and our patients can benefit from improved mood, a reduce in symptoms of stress and anxiety, and an enhancement in our cognitive functioning. Along with having natural light in a space, it really is nice to have natural settings with green space. And if you don't have access to green space in front of the office, you can kind of invite that green space into the office by including plants. And a number of plants are going to be beneficial to liven up the space, but also to continue that improved mood, reduce the symptoms of depression and anxiety, and you actually can help with your air filtration in this way. I know a lot of us may already have air purifiers in our offices or homes, but we can naturally purify the air by including more plants. And one of my favorite plants to do that is a snake plant. I also have some Monstera deliciosas, as well as other plants that I'm looking at and researching that are going to help to liven up the space and improve the air quality as well as my mood. Now, the next thing that we want to look at is our ergonomics and our posture and movement at work. So we often are having to do notes on our patients. Now, do we have it set up in an efficient manner where we can take those notes immediately after we see each patient? Do we have computers or iPads mounted onto the walls in our bays and rooms so that we can be in a standing posture while we're taking these notes? Or do we often wait until after we see our patients and we're in a slouched position, either handwriting or typing these notes? And so that's definitely another way that we can influence our physical environment in the office by adding these subtle changes to help better our posture as well as how we're able to care for patients. The next thing that we want to consider is the overall flow and layout of the office. We want to make sure that there's plenty of spaces that facilitate social interaction if possible, if you have the square footage, so that while patients are there, this actually fosters connections and community. It can also help to reduce loneliness that we sometimes see with our patients. I know a lot of us can think of right now that one patient that comes in and stays and wants to talk a little bit longer because this may be the only bright spot in their day. And so if we can help by improving our physical environments to create a welcoming space, that is going to improve the health outcomes for our patients as well. Next on this discussion is this idea of a messy or disorganized space. They have actually done studies that have shown messy, disorganized spaces can increase our cortisol levels, obviously encourage a more depressed mood, which we do not want that. And it also can decrease our executive functioning, increase procrastination, no one wants that, and decrease our productivity. We really want to make sure that we're not reaching a point of emotional exhaustion just because our spaces are cluttered and they're not easy to navigate. And so we want to also include visually appealing art and colors on the wall. Those things help to improve mood, decrease our stress, and increase productivity. And so when we look at all of these things, these are small, subtle changes that can really have a huge impact for our space to improve not only our mental and physical well-being, but the mental and physical well-being of our patients as well. So thank you all again for tuning in, and we can't wait to chat with you next time.
And now for the moment everyone has been waiting for, starring this month's experts.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Georgia Chiropractic Connection, a podcast for chiropractors by chiropractors. Today, I have with me an amazing special guest, Ms. Carolyn Boldt. Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So she's invited us into her home. As you can see, we're in a lovely space today. I wish you all could see the view that we are looking at. It's overlooking Lake Lanier. It's absolutely gorgeous. But I wanted to do this in person with Carolyn because I know that she's got some amazing things to share. She has been in interior design, especially in office spaces, for quite a long time. So this is a really special one. Sit back, relax, and let's get connected on the Chiropractic Connection. Carolyn. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm so excited.
Thanks for being here.
I know. I was going to say thank you for having us in your home. It's absolutely lovely. I love it. So I wanted to do this interview with you because I know a lot of people are opening offices. Design elements are a huge part of that. And it's not just as simple as finding an office space, putting a table in, and moving into it. And so I think this episode is really important because I think people need to understand what goes into really, what should you look for when you're looking for a chiropractic space? What elements are needed for healing? What do the patients need? What does a doctor need, right? So there's so many elements and pieces to that. So I just want you to share all that with us. But before we start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in interior design?
So I'm from Texas, and my father worked for NASA, and this was in the 60s. My father worked advanced preliminary design, and he was working on the space station 20 years before the space station actually was built. And an architect was hired as an intern specialty thing by NASA to focus on the interior design of the space station.
Okay.
Because they understood that if they were going to put people up in space for a long period of time, there was a psychology of space.
Right.
And they needed to make sure these people didn't go crazy.
Right. Absolutely.
So his name was Roger, and he would come over during this summer period of time to have dinner with us as a family, because he was from out of town, and my mom would cook, and they would sit in the living room and philosophize. And I was 14, and I would just absorb this understanding that your environment and your space changes your psychology, and just really began to understand it. And I began to want to do that with my life. I wanted to, because I was already loved art, but I didn't just want to be an artist. It was like I wanted to make an impact on people. So that was my direction. Ended up going to the University of Texas, graduated in 1980, went to Houston, and then in 83, the economy fell apart. And in Texas, the oil, it just was bad, 20-something% unemployment. And I ended up moving to Atlanta and found my job. I found a job in Atlanta, always in commercial design. And that's how I got into design. Yeah.
So a conversation that you just overheard many times in the living room. I love that.
Yes.
Now, were you one of those type of children that would redesign your room?
Yes.
All the time?
Yes.
Like once a month?
Yes. And I laugh because I talk to people that are interested in design. Most of them are women that I talk to. They're interested in design, and kind of there's this idea that you play Barbies and you play with the house more than you play with the Barbies. You play with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're arranging things and you're doing stuff. So yes, I was like that.
I love that. So your background, your degree is in interior design
It's
as well?
in interior design, interior architecture.
Okay.
Because it's in the commercial side of design, it's very much about, you need to know the codes and you need to understand the flow and you need to understand how things are built.
Okay.
But I don't have to learn the engineering or the structural.
Okay, I gotcha. So what made you transition? So when you started, how did you get into the healthcare sector of it? How did you decide that, okay, I'm going to switch over and I'm going to start doing healthcare?
How did I do healthcare? So in 2000, I was working for myself.
Okay.
And in 2003, I was called by the facility manager at Life University, who got my name through someone that worked there that had worked for someone I had worked for. So I wasn't focused on healthcare.
Okay.
I was focused on corporate.
Okay.
And I was focused on large facilities and doing large facility management. That was more of my forte. So they called me in to help actually reduce space. So if you know anything about the university in 2003, they had a lot of extra space because they almost lost their accreditation and they needed to reduce. So they had how many square feet of space, they had to reduce it by down to like 10% of what they had. Okay. So I was called in to help do facility space planning. So space planning is a huge part of what we are experts at as designers, and just trying to figure out how to make all this space condensed. Mm-hmm. And so that was 2003. And then in 2004, just kind of continued doing that type of work on the university. And then 2004, Dr. Reitman came on board. Mm-hmm. And my first meeting with Dr. Reitman was to rearrange his office to get all of his furniture in there. And then it was that idea of he wanted to pull the university up from the ground. You know, they had, we used to talk about it being the phoenix, you know, kind of coming up from the ashes. And so the philosophy is that your environment is going to impact your success. Right. And he looked around at the environment of the university and it was deteriorated and it was in bad shape. And so he asked CrossFields, which is the name of our company, so what can you do to help us? So we started to do all kinds of planning and kind of brainstorming, and all they had money for was paint.
Oh, wow.
But we did a lot with paint. And we did a lot just to kind of freshen things up.
Yeah.
And then it just continued. So over the course of 2003 up until like 2014 or so, CrossFields have over 100 and something different projects in our books for Life University.
Wow.
It became 80% of our client.
Wow.
So we were there all the time, and which is how I know Dr. Gross.
Yeah.
So he and I work together a lot at Life University.
I
So,
love
yeah.
that. Do you still do things with the university?
No. So what happened is that in 2008-ish, 2008, a chiropractor asked me, or a student, my chiropractor had a student that was opening around the corner in Kennesaw. We talked about being in Kennesaw.
Right.
And he said, why don't you help him open, and just because I was under chiropractic care at that point, which we didn't even go into how that happened, but I will in a minute.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point is I did a chiropractic office. I bartered.
Okay.
But I had so much fun helping a smaller, a sole practitioner, multiple practitioners, et cetera, as opposed to a huge corporation.
Right.
Totally different feeling, totally different way of feeling like you can help make a difference. So I enjoyed doing that, and he ended up giving my name to another student that was getting out of school, and I did a second office. And right about that was 2008, 2009, and then in 2010, because we were on campus all the time, Life University asked us if we would teach one of those weekend business classes. Mm-hmm. So my husband and I, he is more on the process and construction side, and I'm more the design side. We put together a 6-hour lecture that we did during those weekend classes. And then that turned into, in 2012, I started doing it in Dr. Kessel's class, which we talked about, turned to a 2-hour lesson. But somewhere in there, doing those classes, having students ask if we could help them, not really and going, we just saw a need because we believed in chiropractic so much, but we knew that the image of chiropractic to the public was not good. And it's like part of that piece was that they didn't represent themselves well. The majority of chiropractors, especially in 2010, the offices were horrible, to be really honest with you.
Oh.
They really were. It just wasn't even something to think about. And still today, it's kind of like, well, interior design is a luxury. But what reality is, in other businesses, we talked about you working at Nordstrom's, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because your image is going to make or break you.
Right.
Your image is the package of what you're offering on the inside.
Right.
So we saw a need there, and so we started developing a system that we could work virtually, because we knew 2012 virtually. Yeah. That was before we had the things we have today, but we developed a system we could work virtually to help chiropractors, and we packaged not our design, but our services. So that we could get through them quickly, because we were used to working on year-long projects.
Yeah.
How could we get through them quickly? How could we help? And we started that in 2012.
Wow.
With a Facebook page, and it grew. And at the same time, our work at the university had kind of switched over into, they were needing bigger things done than we did. So it was a really smooth transition. So we're still really good friends with a ton of people at the university. So,
I love that. Well, I do want to backtrack, because I want to know about your journey into chiropractic and how you got connected. You're passionate about our field, and you're such a huge ally to us. So can you tell me a little bit about where that journey in chiropractic started for you? Our listeners always love to know, especially when we interview people who are not chiropractors, what brought you?
What brought me? How I drank the Kool-Aid?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in 1991, I'm a single mom. We're working toward being a single mom, let's say.
Okay.
And my daughter has chronic tonsillitis, and the pediatrician wants her tonsils out. And that scared me. Not because of her tonsils, but because I didn't want her to go into surgery.
Right.
Because I'd had my tonsils out at 6, so I didn't think anything about it. But I know that I was exposed to chiropractic at just the right time. So I had a neighbor that was a chiropractor, and he had 10 children, delivered them all at home, and talked about that. And then my ex-husband and I, before it was totally my ex-husband and I, were at a restaurant inside a hotel, and there was a pediatric chiropractic convention going on.
Okay.
And I just heard these stories about all these healings of children. And I was just like, opened my mind to it. But what the final one was my daughter's babysitter had a roommate who was a student at Life University.
Okay.
And that was 1991. And she was in her clinicals, and she talked me into coming in. And at the time, bringing Lauren in, I couldn't just take Lauren. I had to go too.
Mm-hmm.
So we both got adjusted and learned about, I was very educated, got really educated, but it was 2 or 3 months into it, Lauren did come down with tonsillitis, which was kind of her rhythm, 2 to 4 months.
Right.
But I didn't go to the pediatrician. I did everything Dr. Karen told me to do, everything. I was scared, but it took just about as long to get past it as if I'd put her on antibiotics, but I didn't do that. And she was healed of tonsillitis. She still has tonsillitis today. In fact, it was a year later that I went back to the pediatrician for a well baby checkup. And they're like, well, what happened? I said, she's under chiropractic care, and I was all excited. He poo-pooed it. I changed pediatricians, but it was, that was the journey. So 91-ish, and I was also under care that got me under care. And I know that helped me get through a divorce. Not unscathed, but much better.
Right.
And the stress and everything. So I've just been a proponent of it ever since. So when I told you about Life University, it was like, well, yeah, it's a natural thing.
Right.
And the other thing that happened when we were at the university, doing all that work, we began to learn the business of the chiropractor.
Okay.
And began to really understand the struggles of the chiropractor. And that was another thing that kind of got us on a mission. And we want more and more people to go to chiropractors.
Right.
So we want them to be respected. And so this kind of came into like, hey, we can help you be respected by elevating your office environment.
And I think it's something you mentioned earlier was you thought that you only went to a chiropractor if you had a car accident. So that clearly says that we, and some people still believe this, have a bit of a branding issue, right? So helping to come in and rebrand that message. Now, when you were visiting these offices, while you were under care, were you looking around thinking, we could be changing this, or this should be like that? Were you already kind of thinking these things before?
Well, I'm going to be really honest with you.
Okay.
If anybody remembers Life University's public clinic in 1991, it was horrible.
Yeah, it was like shared with I think a mail center.
Yes.
Yeah, it was not.
It was really bad.
Yeah.
It was really, really bad. And it was really bad. And if it hadn't been for Dr. Karen being there, waiting for me to be there, I wouldn't have gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely would not have paid more than, I think I paid like $14 a visit or something. I would have not paid more than that because the clinic, it wasn't worth it. It was just, so So the answer is yes. But I got past that and I was going there for the doctor, which is really sad because a lot of doctors think, well, they're just coming for me. It's like, how much easier would they come for you if the package around you is inviting?
Right.
Then we see when we remodel offices or we create new offices, we see our chiropractors increase their revenue by 20% real easily. And I had a great story of a chiropractor that I met with a few weeks ago. She's actually was an associate doctor.
Okay.
And I asked her how she liked the new clinic. They just opened. And she said, oh my gosh, she said, it's so much easier to sell my $3,000 packages now.
I was going to ask you that,
Yeah.
How things look, whether it's perception or reality, right? When it looks more expensive, people are more inclined to pay more, right? So that goes into that psychology of space and how things are put together, right?
Mm-hmm. And we were talking a little bit earlier when I found out about Nordstrom's and stuff. So when we design an office, we think of several things. One, it definitely is healthcare, and you want it to be healing. You want it to be a healing place. Now, a healing place for this doctor and a healing place for that doctor may not look the same.
Mm-hmm.
This one, we were talking about more sports doctor. This one's more of a family practice, and they want a living room feeling, et cetera. So you have to start with what that image is that you want and what that ideal patient is that you want to attract into your space. And then you think about the healing around that.
Right.
But what we talk about is that we bring in retail design and hospitality design. So retail design is that first impression. It's that you think about, you walk into a store looking for something to buy and you expect that the environment around it is going to match cost-wise and what you're going to buy. Whether it's Walmart, which is very intentionally designed to be the low price leader, or whether it's a high-end designer store. Both of them are intentional. So it's not that one is better than the other. You don't have to have beautiful high-end spaces just to have, high-end dollar. I mean, if you want a high-end dollar, you need a high-end looking space.
Right.
If you want a fast track dollar and it's more, you want it to be more affordable, you want it to, for the every person, you need it comfortable for that level.
Right.
You can't get it. You don't want to get too high or people won't feel comfortable. You don't want it to be too low or people won't pay enough.
Right.
So you just have to decide where you want to be. And as it doesn't have to be expensive, it just has to be intentional.
Right. Okay.
And then the other part of it was hospitality design.
Yes.
So retail is first impression design.
Okay.
Hospitality creates a culture.
Okay.
Okay. So they're kind of mixed together. But if you think about hospitality design, you think about, I want to go out to dinner tonight. Yes, you think about the food, but you think about the atmosphere.
Right.
And how you want to feel. And that
I'm thinking about it now. Some dinner where I want to go to tonight. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Okay. So there's a culture that's created from that environment.
Yeah.
So once again, back to the psychology of space.
Right.
So, and those are things we bring into, we ask as we design offices.
So when someone's looking, and without, I know every office is different, every price point is different. If you're opening a new office or redesigning, what is a budget? What's a healthy budget, or at least a goal to save for? What does that cost look like? I think people think, oh my gosh, I cannot afford to even redesign my office. Can you do it at a low cost and still have an expensive feel? I know you talked about not expensive, but intentional, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
What would you advise? Because we have a lot of docs that are looking to open their own space and they'll settle for anything, right? Because maybe they're already paying $1,000 for rent and they've got a few things that they piecemeal together. But if the space is not inviting, how can they do that? How much money should they be setting aside, or at least thinking about, for designing a space?
Well, unfortunately, prices have gone up a lot, so that's really hard to say. I mean, and it also depends on what you're starting with.
Right.
So, if you're starting with a gray box, meaning that you have a space or you have a retail strip center that's going to be torn out and you're going to rebuild that inside, you're looking at around $100 a square foot to build it out and finish it. And that's the infrastructure that has to be done too, because the most expensive part of construction is not the wall covering on the wall or lack of wall covering. It's the plumbing. It's the HVAC. It's the electrical. Those things are really expensive. So in the build out of a space, you can't not have those things, right? So that's kind of where we're going. But if you're just looking at doing a refresh, say you have an office and everything, and I'm going to go backwards for just a second. You have to start with, is it going to function for you? Okay. We're talking a lot of aesthetics, but you can't, and we love can't put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
Okay. It's got to function. So form follows function. Okay. And we adhere to it. And it means that you can't just focus on it functioning and then make it pretty.
Right.
You've got to think about it holistically, cohesively, all the way through.
Right.
So saying that, you've got to first make sure it functions. So if you're looking for a space, and I'll just talk to people, if you're looking for a new space, you need to make sure it's going to function for you, because that lack of function will cost you money. So you get in there and you're working against it. If you follow what I'm saying.
I do, yes.
So if it doesn't flow well, or if you're paying for rooms that are too big, you're losing, you're paying too much. Or if you've got rooms that are too small, it will impede what you're trying to do. So looking really closely at making sure that layout is going to work for you has to be done first. Then the design part can just be using the right paint, and making sure that your furniture is not dated, and making sure that, you can buy some furniture today.
I've seen some really ugly furniture in some offices, and I'm like, what is this 1980s
office
chair?
You can still buy a 1980s looking office chair, and it will last forever, and you won't ever want to get rid of it. But it's ugly.
Yeah.
You know, so don't. And we tell especially I teach those classes I teach at Teach It Live. We say just go ahead and spend some money on as little as you can on furniture that looks really good. Go to IKEA, go to Target, wherever it looks good, but put it in your budget to replace it because it's not going to last.
Right.
You know, it's not made to hold up in a commercial situation.
Right.
And so just putting all the pieces together to make it look good. So I don't know if I have a really good budget for you because it
just depends on the space. It just
depends on the space.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you can, you start to look at just paint and carpet. You're looking at $20,000 before you do anything.
Right.
Before you do any of the decor. So it's just being purposeful and intentional.
So what are some must-haves for you in a new office? Like what are things that absolutely should be thought of when opening a space or even redesigning a space?
We have 4 specific free resources that we're going to put together in a package for the GCA members, and they can just do it all at one time, depending on what they're looking for and where they are. But one of the resources is, we call it our 5-point designer checklist. And it is a checklist to basically evaluate your office just right. And it's not the person that wants to add a new service and remodel, but one that just needs to make sure that they've got the best image of what they've got in their space. So, and one of the things we say in there is that don't do it yourself.
Right.
Because you see it too.
Right.
You see it too close. So ask a trusted advisor, ideally someone just like your ideal patient, or your ideal patient to walk through with you.
Okay.
But just quickly, because the resource is there for everyone, but quickly, it's like, are things dirty and cluttered? Are things dated? Are things torn up? And then what's your lighting look like is a big one. And then when we go into dating, we talk about colors and things of that sort.
Yeah.
So I don't remember how I broke up those 5, but that pretty much is the gist of it.
Yeah.
But those are the things that the first place that we say somebody should spend their money is just replacing dated stuff and cleaning things up and making sure it's not dirty and cluttered.
Yeah.
And then lighting is huge.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you think about windows in the office? Natural lighting, overhead lighting, like what is your preference, or what do you think patients respond to best?
If you can have natural light, you know it's natural energy. It's just you want it, but it's not always, especially if you're doing retail strip centers, you get a little bit of window in the front and you don't get really anything. So bringing in, starting from fresh in the design, how can you get light to infiltrate through the whole space?
Right.
By maybe not having the taller walls and things of that sort.
Okay.
But lighting, there's lighting sources. So there's different kelvins of lighting.
Okay.
And the kelvins are the color temperature of lighting.
Right.
And the farther it goes over to 5,000, 5,500, the closer you get to daylight.
Okay.
And it's more white light and it's clean light.
Gotcha.
And then you go down the other direction and you get into more ambient light or more incandescent looking light. So it's warmer, you get 2700 color, and that creates a different atmosphere.
Right.
So once again, you're going back to what atmosphere do you want to create?
Okay.
And if you think about the lower light level is going to create a softer, the warmer light is going to create a softer, more quiet environment, where the brighter light is going to create more energy.
Okay.
So you just have to know where you want to go from there.
Okay.
But if you can't have natural light, just playing with the light color.
What do you think about colors in general in an office? Color theory and
we can spend 3 hours now.
Do you have a color palette that you prefer, or that you recommend, or that you think patients respond best to? Is there one in particular?
No, because not every chiropractor is the same. We
Right.
talked about that, and not every patient base is the same.
True.
But knowing what your patient base is will help define your color palette. Does that make sense?
It does.
So in color theory, there's warm colors and cool colors.
Right.
Can we start with that? And the cooler colors tend to fall in the more healing spectrum. So the blues and the greens will fall in the more healing, where the warm colors will fall more into the nurturing spectrum, if you follow what I'm saying. So you have to decide where you want to be. It's not like any color is unhealing.
Right.
You know,
right.
it's just some are more, and it depends on the healing.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got a sports chiropractic office, you want energy in that
right.
space.
I was going to say, something a little bit more brighter, energetic, right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you've got, pediatric, you don't want it to be too energetic, but you don't want it to feel like grandmother's living room either.
Correct.
You know, where if you've got geriatric, you want it to feel like grandmother's living room. So that's that place where you play all the way through. And each color has different aspects you can bring into it.
Okay. Can you put multiple colors in your office? Like each
absolutely.
room have a different feeling and color to it?
Well,
or do you want it
I'm going to tell you my opinion.
Okay.
My opinion is that you want continuity, just like you want continuity of your brand.
Okay.
Okay. So we did Dr. Rick Markson's office, and we brought in, it was down near Miami, so he could have a lot more energy in his space. It's in Fort Lauderdale. And it was basically a white background. And then we picked 4 main colors, real colors. And I mean, we had blue, we had a green, we had a kind of a mauve-y color. And we had, what else did we have? I know we had 4 main colors. I don't remember off the top of my head, but we literally each choosed it as an accent, and each room got one of those 4 accents. But we only had 4. And we repeated it over and over. So we brought that continuity of those 4 all the way through the space.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and we used it, then we had one wall covering when you walk in that had all of the colors in it.
Gotcha.
Kind of like you were talking about with your rug.
Yeah, absolutely. So it like brings it all together.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so when we think about branding, I have been to offices that really don't have a brand. They're just blank chiropractic, right? And it doesn't really, there's I don't know, there's no brand there. How important do you think it is to establish a brand for your office, and then making sure that it is advertised throughout the office, or the logos are there, the messaging's there? How do you incorporate that?
So I'm not a marketing expert, but a marketing expert would tell you how important it is. Okay. So I'm just going to mimic what they're saying, because it differentiates you.
Right.
And it also, your brand, first off, your brand is not your logo. Okay. Your brand is not just a couple of colors on a palette. It's not your media package. Your brand is the personality of your office, not you, but your office.
Okay.
And it may be you, especially if you're a sole practitioner, right? But it is, what do you want that brand, what do you want that office to show up as? And what is that personality going to be? And that's how the brand develops.
Okay.
So it does develop in colors. It does develop in aesthetics, very much so. And it does develop in images, and just how consistent you are on social media. I mean, there's a lot of different, but it begins to be something that's recognizable, and it's something that ties you to your mission. And I said at the beginning, it differentiates you.
Yeah.
You know, so if you look at any franchise, it's going to focus on what's our brand.
Right.
You know, it's a business thing.
Right. Okay.
It's not a luxury. It's a business thing to have a brand.
Okay.
So those that don't have a brand, that is their brand.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Interesting.
So does that help?
Yeah, that does help. I want to ask you about smells.
Okay. Okay.
So do you advise against, or for, or with, or what are your thoughts?
I think you should be very, very intentional on your smells, because you want to make so smell is it attaches to your memories.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And they've known for a long time to use smells in hospitality. You know, a lot of hotels will have their own scent, and even high-end retail will have their own scent. So you get that memory, and you feel like you understand.
Have you ever been to Las Vegas?
Yes.
Have you ever been to like the Aria or the Vidara?
It's been years.
Do you know, they have that smell when you walk in. It is like intoxicating.
Yes.
Yes. So that's why I asked, because I'm like, oh my gosh, it smells so good in
Well,
here.
you think about resorts. If you go to a resort, it's just so much so that you get the little squirts on the pillow. That is their scent.
Right.
You know, their customized scent. So, you know, I know that health-wise, you need to be careful of what is in that scent. So we look at, hey, what can you do with essential oils? You know, were working with a client that had multiple day, each day of the week they had a different essential oil that they were doing.
Okay.
But all of them were falling in the same kind of smell pattern, if you follow what I'm saying. There may have been a base that was the same with all of them.
Okay.
But it creates a memory.
Right.
It's part of a brand.
Okay.
So
yeah.
use it.
Okay.
Use everything you can.
I love that.
And make sure it doesn't stink.
Very much so. So there's some that, people I love to smudge their office or like sage it down. And sages are really, while it's a good cleansing smell and, element, it is a strong smell. So those are things where I'm like, I don't know if you should sage in the middle of the day. I'm not sure. Some people might love it, but
yeah, doing some things. And I know that working with doctors that do multiple, types of practice and disciplinary and stuff like that, some of their machinery, like ozone. I mean, there's a smell of ozone machinery that you just smell it everywhere, and it does make you feel like you're in a hospital immediately. And it associates that. So not that that's bad, but if it's not what you want, it's bad.
Right. Right. If that's not what's right. Exactly.
If that's not what you're trying to do.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I absolutely get that. Okay. So let's see. I think we're pausing.
In a lot of directions.
I know we have. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really want to make sure that we talk about. Is there anything that you think that we haven't discussed that would be that's pivotal?
I just, the whole understanding, it seems to me from doing this for 12 years now, that the average or the majority of chiropractors don't put a lot of weight into the aesthetics. I would probably say 2%, 10 out of 10 chiropractors, all of them understand flow, because that's been messaged down from the practice management groups and efficiency experts, and understanding that bottleneck and all of those things. They all understand that, and that is very, very important. But that aesthetic part of it, as we were talking about, cannot be ignored. So that's the message that I'm trying to get out there. And ending with, it does not have to be expensive. It just has to be intentional.
Yeah. How many offices have you done?
Around 700.
Oh my gosh, Carolyn.
We've been doing it 12 years, so
but
it's been a long time.
That's a lot of offices.
Well, it's not just me. I have a design staff that
I
does it.
know.
I hardly ever design anymore.
Really?
Honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Several years since I've actually really.
All over the country, or here just in Georgia?
No.
Like
when we started this, we knew there was not enough chiropractors opening new offices in Georgia to fulfill our income.
Right.
So, and we do design build in Atlanta. So we're still contractors here.
Okay.
And so if we have the opportunity to do that, that's a whole wonderful experience, because it's all combined together and you're thinking through and you're value engineering all the way. But we do full architecture and interiors all over, anywhere we can touch virtually. Okay. And anywhere in the United States, we're licensed architects and licensed mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers.
Wow, that's awesome.
So if we work in Canada, but we work with local, we partner with a local architect in Canada, and we've worked in Europe the same way, in Australia the same way. So, but our main body is North America and just the parts of Canada. So that's.
And all from a blog.
All from a blog.
All from a blog. She started this from blogging. Like,
I started from teaching those classes.
Right.
Yeah. And then I was blogging, and I was telling someone the other day, I says, how did you start this thing? And I was like, well, I knew that all of the work we did in Atlanta, doing design build, my husband and I together, was all word of mouth. Mm-hmm. So if we were going to do this, I was going to have to learn how to be a digital marketer. Okay. And so we played with it with, like I said, a Facebook page, a blog, and actually the 5 biggest mistakes chiropractors make when opening an office, which is still one of my resources today, was the resource I started with. Okay. And because we were like, hey, you guys need to know what you're doing.
Right. If many of us don't. We're great doctors, but we're not interior designers.
Well, and you're only going to have to open an office once. You're going to only open your first office big office once,
Right.
right? But you're only going to work on your office every 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
So you don't have to know.
Yeah.
We just want you to be, as I tell the students, just be an educated consumer is
Right.
our goal. So there's lots of resources. Like I said, the free resources. And then if you just go on our blog,
Perfect.
there's tons of stuff.
Will you tell them what your website is and how they can find you?
Sure. It's CrossFieldsDesign.com. If you just Google CrossFields, we should come up, or Chiropractic Office Design, we should come up. And we have a free resource. It'll be CrossFieldsDesign.com/GCA. And you'll come to a unique landing page with those 4 free resources on it.
And then you have a Instagram page.
Yeah, we've got Facebook, we've got an Instagram page,
Okay.
we've got a Twitter X page, we've got a huge Pinterest page.
Really? I bet that's probably really good.
Yeah.
Where you like pin all your ideas.
We pin our ideas, and we pin lots of the projects that we've done.
Okay.
And our designers literally use Pinterest as a tool when we're designing.
Okay.
It's a communication tool for communicating with our client, resources and things. So we have a huge Pinterest board. So, but if you go to our website, down at the bottom, it has all the links.
Perfect. Awesome. So go to the website so you can look at everything. Because if you're watching this and you're looking in your office and you're looking around and going, I think I need this, go and look at the free resources and just start doing some digging and looking to see what you can do to upgrade your space and upgrade your office. I know that I'm going to do that. I've already showed her pictures of my space. So, I'll be doing a little bit of redesigning, but I really hope that you guys have gotten some great information from Carolyn today. She's obviously a wealth of knowledge and information. Carolyn, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with our doctors and, our future doctors out there, so that they understand that space is important. Space psychology is very important for the healing and for the messaging, for your brand, for patient retention and growth. So
yes, I want to throw this one thing out. I also have 2 online things. We've got floor plans you can buy.
Awesome.
We've also got an online course on going through the process of opening an office, which comes from that original class I taught at Life. And then we also have what we call designed for you. So it's 8 different styles that are already their finishes, furniture, lighting, everything all put together.
Oh, wow.
In a package. And each one of them is intended for a different brand.
Okay. So you can just go and be like, I want that one.
I want that one. And you get get this document, and you get a box of samples, and we try to teach you what you can to use it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So we do that for the ones that say, I really want a good designer, but I really can't afford it. So you just buy a pre-put together design package.
Okay. That's awesome. All on the website, right?
Yeah, it's all on our website.
Okay, perfect. Go to the website. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you have been designed by Carolyn in your office, please just send us a picture, because we'd love to post that. I'm probably going to pull some pictures from your website as well of some of our fellow GCA members, so people can see the amazing things that she's done. So, Carolyn, thank you so much for doing this with me today. It's been a pleasure, and I've enjoyed it. We've made another connection on the Chiropractic Connection. Again, I'm your host, Amber Jackson. This is Carolyn Boldt, and we will see you on our next episode. Bye.
Thank you.
Our executive producer is Dr. Amber Jackson. Our hosts are Dr. Amber Jackson and Dr. Deborah Little. Production staff is Communications and Events Coordinator Sequoia Gonzalez. Our podcast speakers are Dr. Patience Canty and Dr. Mark Ellis. A special thanks to podcast founder Dr. Noel Stiley and Public Relations Chair Dr. Nyla Smith.